What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to X-Men's Expanding Universes, where today we cover a new series, which would be the Walking Dead Telltale series, where today I bring along an interesting topic, which will be, what if CARLEY survived? CARLEY is a very interesting character because of her involvement to Lee, and also the romance the two share with each other. Being killed by Lily was something very unexpected, but also heartbreaking to this day. So, let's dive into the story where CARLEY would actually survive this. In this story, I will be including two types of CARLEYs that your game can generate. You can have an untrustworthy CARLEY who doesn't trust having Lee in the group because of his mistreatment, or a version of CARLEY that is beginning to have a romantic relationship with Lee. Regardless, let's head into the story. Now, to have CARLEY survive, let's say that they don't hit a walker and they continue to drive instead of everyone walking out of the RV. They would soon enough stop at the train where everyone would head out and Lily would decide to betray the group and head off with the RV. Kenny would be pissed, and if you had a good relationship with him, he would have told you about Duck's bite. With this information, Lee would have an option to tell CARLEY. This option would only be possible if you have a good relationship with CARLEY, and if you tell CARLEY, she would be shocked to hear this and would feel terrible for Duck. Because you have a good relationship with CARLEY, she would promise to keep it to herself. For the non-trustworthy CARLEY, she would begin to have growing suspicions about Duck in her mind, but she would be occupied on trying to get the train running, since Lily took the RV. After Lee gets the train running, he would unlatch the train, and before meeting Chuck, CARLEY would confront him. She would tell Lee that she is worried about Clementine. If you told CARLEY about Duck, she would be worried that the same thing would happen to her, and she would say that she wouldn't be able to live with herself if the same thing happens to Clem, or worse. If you didn't know, she would tell Lee about Duck, and that even though he treats her wrong, she still is thankful that she is living, and offers a piece of advice to Lee. Regardless, CARLEY would want to have Lee teach her how to use a weapon so nothing bad happens to her. Lee would tell her the same prompts that he would with Chuck, but CARLEY would either react sympathetically or harshly. The two would then meet Chuck, where CARLEY would pull a gun on him, with Chuck telling her that he isn't a threat and to drop her gun. Lee can then ask CARLEY to drop the gun or keep it on him. Good CARLEY would listen to Lee either way he goes, but bad CARLEY wouldn't listen to Lee as she doesn't trust him. This will affect Chuck's views on the group, so if you're nice to him, he would help out more. If not, then he wouldn't pitch in as much. Everyone would then meet Chuck, and they would prepare to leave with everyone getting on board the train. As everyone boards the train, Katja would tell Kenny about Duck, with CARLEY saying that she's sorry for Duck, as she would be boarding the train. I think CARLEY in this situation would be heartbroken and would decide to stay neutral. On the train ride, when Katja needs help with Duck, this is where she would confirm to CARLEY that Duck was bitten if she wasn't told by Lee. CARLEY would tell Lee to talk some sense into Kenny and that she will stay and watch and help Katja. Lee would then go confront Kenny, where he either convinces Kenny or beats him up. The train would stop and things would go normally with Duck and Katja dying. Man, that's really messed up to say normally. When everyone would get back on the train, CARLEY would be talking with Chuck, where she would tell Chuck that she talked with Lee about training Clem already. Chuck would appreciate this from CARLEY, but would say that they need a plan once they get to Savannah, and that both ladies, Clem and CARLEY, should cut their hair. CARLEY would be apprehensive, but she would agree, saying her hair is becoming funky. Lee would agree, and if you have a good relationship with CARLEY, she would cut Clem's hair, and Lee would cut CARLEY's hair. Ben would still tell Lee about stealing supplies, but Lee's anger this time would be more centered around Lily stealing the RV and Kenny losing his family. Lee would still teach Clem how to shoot a gun, and the group would soon enough stop when they would come across the bridge. Kenny would be outraged, with CARLEY telling him to calm down. Kenny would prepare to yell at her until Krista and Omid would approach the group. Lee would talk to the two, and before Clem could climb up, CARLEY would stop her and tell her to stay close. They don't know these people just yet. Lee would then come down with the two, with CARLEY being kind, but she would also be on guard with the two. they would decide to go to the train station, with CARLEY going along with Lee and Clementine regardless of her relationship with Lee. With CARLEY being there wouldn't be too many close calls, as CARLEY would help Lee kill the walkers. Krista would arrive worried, but CARLEY would assure her that they had things under control. Krista would tell Lee and CARLEY that she hopes they know what they're doing with Clementine, with Lee having another choice of dialogue for Krista, where he could say that, "With CARLEY at my side, we're a good team." CARLEY would blush as she would give Lee a smile. They would then begin to cut the tank down, with Omid still hurting his leg, but CARLEY would help whoever Lee wasn't able to save get on the train. As they would enter Savannah, Clem would be sleeping on CARLEY's arm as they would hear the radio turn on. As the group would be going through the streets, CARLEY would help Clem and Ben get away from the walkers, but Chuck would still be left behind fending off walkers. They would soon enough make it to the house, where Kenny would be upset, but CARLEY would calm everyone down. They would soon enough head inside the house, where Lee would search the rooms while CARLEY would watch Clementine. If you talk to CARLEY while searching the house, she will tell Lee not to worry about her and that she will be watching Clem. Lee then soon enough meets with Kenny, and they would take care of the child zombie. Outside while digging the grave, CARLEY would actually be there instead of Krista when Clem is watching Lee bury the zombie kid. When discussing whether to leave or take a break at the house, CARLEY would actually side with Krista, saying that they should stay until Omid is properly healed. I think that CARLEY and Krista would actually get along, since they are very similar in character. Regardless, Lee and Kenny still don't find any boats, but because CARLEY is watching Clem would never be able to leave the house. Even though Molly wouldn't find Clementine, she would figure that Lee and Kenny aren't from Crawford based off of their reactions. The walkers would soon enough corner the group, with Molly deciding to help Lee and Kenny. Kenny is the only one who makes it up, so Lee goes through the sewer system and meets the cancer patients. Regardless of how you treat Vernon, they still plan to go to Crawford. If you bring Clem, CARLEY would support you on this, but would tell Lee that they need to be very careful with her. Once getting into the school, CARLEY would decide to join Lee in looking for the battery, since she doesn't trust Molly as much. When walking through the alleyway, she would help find the way past the gate, and the two would encounter Molly torturing the doctor walker. CARLEY would tell her to calm down, with Molly asking why they're getting soft on walkers. CARLEY would then question why Molly doesn't just kill the walker and be done with it. Did this guy mean something to Molly? Molly would ignore the comment, as walkers would begin to flood in the alleyway. With the help of CARLEY, they are able to get the battery much quicker this time around. Lee and CARLEY would then head back to the classroom, where CARLEY asked Lee if Molly killing that one walker was strange. Lee could either comment that it's not that important, Molly is a strange person, or maybe there's more to Molly than what's letting on. CARLEY would share her concern about this, saying that Molly is hiding more than what she's letting on. As they walk through, they would help Kenny and Bree get through the door, and Lee and CARLEY would then go to help out Krista and Vernon, where they find their first tape recorder. They would then get the second tape recorder and would get the medicine. Lee would still have the option to find out Molly's backstory, and you could share this with CARLEY if you have the chance. With CARLEY being with Lee, she wouldn't be able to stop Ben from unleashing the walkers, with Ben then confessing about his betrayal to the group. CARLEY would tell everyone that it doesn't matter what he did, they need to get out of there. Krista would tell CARLEY that they cannot allow him to continue screwing things up, but CARLEY would ask Krista what's more important, voting out a kid from the group or getting back to Omid. Krista would then reluctantly agree, and the group would proceed forward. CARLEY would help Lee recover as they would go up the tower, with them soon enough making it to the top, where Ben is either saved or killed. If you save Ben, your relationship with CARLEY will progress in a positive way. If not, she will begin to rethink her relationship with you. Back at the house, CARLEY would confront Lee, and this is where something very interesting could happen. This is where if you have a romantic relationship with CARLEY, she will confess feelings like Kate does in Season 3, and you have the option to be together with CARLEY or to shut her down. If you killed Ben though, she would change her mind about getting closer with Lee since he let Ben die. If you decide to be with CARLEY, Then they will kiss, with Clem watching from the background with a smile on her face. Lee would then see Molly off, with him then confronting Clem after talking with Vernon. If you kissed CARLEY, Clementine would ask Lee if him and CARLEY are together, with Lee asking her if she's been spying. Clem would then answer Lee with an innocent no. Lee would then have his normal dialogue with Clem being upset. Again, if you kissed CARLEY, then she'd be sleeping on Lee's shoulder when Lee would wake up. Lee would lie her down though, and would then go looking for Clem, where unfortunately, he gets bitten. Oh, and if you have bad CARLEY, then none of that happens and she just keeps to herself. When the decision comes to show your bite, CARLEY would be stunned to see Lee bitten if you show the group. Bad CARLEY isn't heartless and would be apologetic towards Lee, and good CARLEY would ask what happened as her eyes would begin to water up. Lee would give her a hug, telling her that there's no time to worry as Clem is gone. Now CARLEY would only go with Lee if he showed the bite or if you grew the romantic relationship. If you don't show the bite, she'd only go with you if you had a good relationship with her. Regardless, Lee would soon enough pass out. When considering cutting off the arm, CARLEY would be very hesitant as there is more of a risk than a reward. CARLEY would protest against this, but ultimately, it is your choice. If you decide to cut off the arm and kissed CARLEY, she would decide to hold Lee's hand, saying that she's here for him. Lee would thank her as he would black out from the cut. When getting to the roof, Lee would talk with CARLEY and their dialogue would be different depending on your relationship. Good CARLEY would be heartbroken to know that the man she found love with at the end of the world is dying, but she would stay strong for him. Bad CARLEY would say that even though they may not have been as close as she wanted, she does feel sorry, and if there's anything she can do, then just ask. The story continues as normal until we get to the house invasion. I know I sound like a broken record when saying this, but CARLEY being here will make things much easier. In the attic, she would try to calm things down when talking about Lee eventually turning. If you have a good relationship with CARLEY, she will defend you and tell Kenny to back off, saying that it's not his call to make every time someone's dying. Kenny would be outraged by this, telling CARLEY to stop being wrapped in her own bubble of romance and consider if she wants to live. This is where Lee cuts in and begins to argue back, and soon enough, they begin chipping away at the wall. When sitting down, Lee has another choice to make when considering who should take care of Clem. He has a choice to place this responsibility onto CARLEY, where he says that CARLEY has been there since day one with Clem, and Clem needs someone she knows to look out for her. CARLEY would respond back, saying she saw what happened to Duck, and she'd be damned if she allows that to happen to Clem. She'd promise. They would all then share a drink, and soon enough make it through to the other side of the mansion. The group would then see the dead couple, with good CARLEY saying that she guessed something like love can't survive in this world any longer. Lee would place his hand on her shoulder, where she would look down in sorrow, but then back up as they'd see a window. If you have been here, CARLEY will stay up on the rooftop, where Kenny still puts down Ben and runs for it. This would hurt CARLEY, as she thought Ben was a good kid, and Kenny was a good man too in her eyes. CARLEY would comment to Lee that they're the only ones left now from the motor inn. Lee would have another piece of dialogue where he could say, "We are, Clem is still out there, or we need to keep moving." If Ben has died and Lee drops the walkie-talkie, CARLEY would try to help Krista get up with the pipe, but it wouldn't be enough, as Kenny would still have to sacrifice himself. When getting to the sign, Lee would decide to go first, and when he falls, Lee would decide to rush into the horde, with Krista calling him crazy. CARLEY would tell Lee that they will find them and that they will get Clem out of there. It's a promise. I think regardless of the relationship, CARLEY would feel like she is responsible for Clem since Lee saved her life. If Lee has a romantic relationship with her, he can decide whether to tell CARLEY he loves her or not. Good CARLEY would begin to well up tears, knowing how things will end, with her shouting back that she loves him too. Omid and Krista would watch this in sorrow, but Lee would then make his final stand. This is the last that CARLEY's involvement will be in Season 1. Your decision to kill Lee or leave him still in your hands. But we all know the right decision when it really comes to it. As Clem is walking through the countryside, she would see 3 figures, with the figures turning their heads and one then beginning to run to her. Clem would be scared until she would find CARLEY, Krista, and Omid. The group would just stay silent as Clem would rush into CARLEY's arms, crying her eyes out. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and if you guys had enjoyed, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe, and leave some comments down below on how you think the next season will go. And just FYI, I actually am writing that one right now, so fingers crossed it will come out next. Also, if you guys are just fans of the Walking Dead Telltale series, or of Lee or CARLEY, subscribe and give a like. I really hope you guys enjoyed this newly formatted video. I'm not sure if it will be like this forever, but I hope you guys enjoyed nonetheless. Later!